Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Hey, hey. Hey, Bear.
Well,
We're going to get started in just a minute. Give everyone a couple of minutes to join. If everyone could write in the chat where they're tuning in from. I know everybody says that on a webinar, but I'm always curious. I am dialing in from Long Island. It is very cold here, so much snow. I feel like we're never going to get out of winter.
I know I'm in Virginia Beach and it has been so cold the past few weeks. I could not do the Long Island, New York life. Bear, you're in the city, right?
yeah. So same with Melissa, basically. Very cold.
All right, we're gonna get started. Let more people join in, but welcome to our very first Truv Product Insider with our product experts, Katrin and Bear. I'm gonna hand it over to them, but if at any point anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be monitoring that. Um, and yeah, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So definitely write in any of your questions. Katrin?
Yeah. So I'll take it from here. We're super excited, like Melissa said. We are trying to put a spotlight on all of our latest and greatest product features and enhancements and platforms. So we're super excited to kick it off for all of our lender clients and prospects on Encompass, the biggest and the greatest platform. So we have monthly releases that come out in our monthly product update. And so as we release those, we just want to make sure that we're giving you all more detailed insight into how to use them and what they look like live in production. So today we'll go through an entire walkthrough of starting from the basics with income, employment, asset order creations. Then we'll walk through all of our latest enhancements that we've made to our 10-day pre-closing verification refresh reports. And then we have a slew of other enhancements that we're going to talk about, including our on-demand pay stub retrieval, grabbing historical pay stubs, and then our awesome feature that Bear and team worked on to release for data patching, income, employment, asset data fields, and having them automatically write to Encompass with a side-by-side view before they're finalized. And then obviously this is for you all, so we really want to make sure that you guys are getting any questions you have answered. So please don't be shy and drop them in the box, and we can either answer them as we go or save them for the end. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Bear, who is our guru on Encompass.
hmm Yeah, thanks, Katrin. So like Katrin said, we'll go through some Encompass demos. I'll share my screen in 1 second. Okay. Can you see my screen? I think so. So I'll demo this on Encompass LO Connect. All of the things I'm going to show though are equally functional on the desktop application or LO Connect. It's just a little bit easier here from my Mac. So essentially you'll start with like a pipeline view and then create a new blank loan file. So this is kind of the start of the application process, right? Unless it comes through a POS. All that we need to order Truv and Encompass is a few basic pieces of information. So we need the borrower's name, right? We can have a co-borrower as well. And we support, right, ordering up to kind of as many applicants in the loan file as Encompass supports. So if you had multiple pairs and borrowers and co-borrowers, right, those all can be added. And then we need the name and just an email. So the email is how we will send the verification order, right? So if we're verifying income, employment, assets, we basically just need a way to send them, right, that link that they will then open up in their email or even on a mobile device, and then go through and connect, right, the employers or the providers we're requesting. So I'll add this. So that's like the basic contact information, right? Uh, This kind of next step here is optional, but right, if you specify an employer in the loan file, so if it's a current or previous, we will actually be able to pull those into the Truv ordering interface. And then when we send that request out to the borrower, instead of it being like a generic kind of connect your employer and they have to maybe search for it or they have to search for the payroll provider, we will send them an explicit request saying connect Home Depot because that's what we know is in the file and we know is what needs to be verified. And then additionally, right, to take it a step further, for a lot of the big employers, right, we know which payroll provider this is actually mapped to. So then we can just really show them the login link and they can just enter their credentials there. They don't have to do any searching or kind of look up on their end. Um, so we'll add right an employer for the borrower, and we can add two current employers for the co-borrower. So that's the asset or the employment piece. And then in assets, we can also, for our VOA product, order verification of assets. If we specify a financial institution here, right, that belongs to each, we can include this in the order as well. So I have the basic information, right? This is kind of like typical, loan setup. Um, in Encompass, we support ordering Truv through two different pathways. So we support it being manually ordered, which would be what I'm about to show you here. And we support it through automated service ordering, which is basically automatically triggering it based on some criteria that's updated in the loan. So I'll show it manual first. Right, basically, when you open the services tab, right? So if you configure Truv services and Encompass, which is super easy, you basically plug in a client ID and a secret from your API keys, and that's it. You're good to go. Once you open up the Truv service, right, it'll look like this view in here. And this is the part, right, that's definitely consistent between the desktop app and LO Connect. So on the first tab, new order, this is where you can specify the new orders you want to create and send to the borrowers. So, right, I have that borrower information I pulled in from the application, name, their email. If I wanted to send an SMS, I could use that here. And then you have the status updates column. So these will now be people on the loan or in your team that you want to receive status updates regarding this order. So when it's completed, they'll get notified saying, "Hey, John Doe has completed this order. You can view the report here." You can add anything else you would like into this field. So if you have like a loan officer assistant or someone you want to notify, and we can also pull in roles directly from the file if you have some common people who always should be notified. In product type, you can specify which product you want to order. So we have assets, right? We have income, we have employment, and then we have deposit-based verification of employment, which is kind of like a follow-up to assets. You can also pick the template. So typically here, right, if you want to control any customization per branch or product type or anything like that, or JV, you can control that from here. And then this is all of the information that will be included in the order. So for assets, when I send this, right, it'll basically send a request for them to connect Chase Bank. They can also connect anything else so that they need. So if they have Chase, but maybe they have some other banks, or you're not sure, right? The borrower can always go in and connect anything else that's needed. So I'll go ahead and um, I'll create this assets order to start. And last couple columns here, we have success rate. So um, this one for assets and bank and employers, right? We basically show a little icon here. That is the success rate we've historically seen with all of our kind of orders across all of our other lenders and companies and clients. And it's to give you a sense on whether this employer will work in advance. So for example, here in income, we see Costco has high success, which means we see a lot of successful connections with this, and we recommend you definitely proceed. For McDonald's, right, we actually don't see too much success. So we recommend, potentially not trying to verify this through Truv and to, pursue an alternate method in your waterfall. So that's enough on this page. I'm going to go ahead and create the order.
Bear, I think a good call out there too is even if, the loan officer is giving the borrower a call, um, they can either allow them to try because just because it was unsuccessful doesn't mean that historically that it wouldn't be successful this time. They can always
Hmm.
try, and if not, if the document upload product is enabled with Truv, that can be the internal fallback method there. So it's the same interface, and less steps for the borrower there. So that's always an option.
Yeah, definitely. So I see the order confirmation, right? I know that this was sent to the borrowers, and I also get a reminder on what the expiration period is. So I have 1 day expiration set here. After that, right, once they're created, I can see the status. So I see that these were sent, they're in pending. If I click on the row, right, I can see an actual timeline of this order. So I see it was created, I see it was sent to their email, and I see it was delivered. Additionally, right, when they open the email, I'll also get an update on the timeline. When they try to attempt and connect, I'll get an update. So this is kind of the go-to place for, what's happening with them. Um, Additionally, there's a link in here, so you can copy this and actually send it in like an email or an SMS to the borrower directly. So if they're saying, "Hey, I can't find the email," or how do I open the link to do this?" You can actually just grab this, throw it in an email or SMS or portal, send it, and they'll be able to open the request directly. So once right now, flipping to the borrower side, I've gotten this request. I'll see a prompt to sign in to, the bank, Chase Bank that was requested. So if I continue, this would then open up to Chase Bank's actual, login page. This is just like a sandbox example. Once they go in there and enter their credentials, right, they'll be brought back here, and now we'll actually initiate the connection and data pull. Any any kind of questions or anything at this point? If you're one of our lenders in Encompass, you're probably very familiar with this flow. As I mentioned, right, they can connect to any other accounts, so you can always prompt them to connect everything. If you know of just one, right, they connect that and then add anything else that's needed. Once they're done, finish and share is the way to close it. And then um, on the borrower's side, right, that's it. They'll basically just see that success screen. And then on the lender's side, there will be an email, as I mentioned, that would say, okay, this order's been completed. Um, and we can complete this one as well. So this is right, the Wells Fargo one for the other co-borrower. All of this, in the screen here, this kind of crazy purple color, all this text is customizable. So in the template, right, that I showed during the new order step, you can change kind of all of the elements here. You can change the color, you can change the text. Right, this is all kind of your branding and your experience here. And finish and share. So I just showed right the manual ordering and creation experience. I'm actually going to go ahead now and also show the ASO experience. So ASO is a pretty powerful capability that's in Encompass. What it stands for is automated service ordering. And essentially what that allows you to do is kind of take this whole process I showed you of creating the order and sending it, but queuing it on like another field change in the Encompass loan file. So for example, you can say like, maybe when the intent to proceed is confirmed or when the milestone is moved. You can also get more granular. You can say when the intent to proceed is set and, if the borrower is not self-employed or has like a credit score above some threshold. We can also take into account the success rate, right? So you can kind of customize this to really hone in on like a very specific moment in the file and like a very specific, borrower demographic where you want to create the true order. And it will basically, right, once that criteria is set, create the order for you. So for this example here, I have it triggering on this city field being set, right? But this can really be anything in the loan. So I set the city, um, and now, right, this can be set by anyone, right? Maybe there's someone in sales or processing or underwriting who's making the update. But at the same time, now Truv order is going to be initiated. So when I go back to Truv, I'll see order was accepted. And right now, kind of magically, right, I see two new orders were created, and I didn't have to go in and create the create order button. As I mentioned, right, you can kind of refine the criteria a lot. So if you noticed, right, the co-borrower here, when I first showed it, they had Costco and McDonald's as the two employers. McDonald's had that very low success rate, the red kind of stop sign. So in my own, rules, I turned off ordering for the low converting employers. And so now when the automated order went through, right, it basically removed that from the order. So kind of isolating it to the high converting one. And that's all, fully configurable on your end. So now going through the income or employer verification experience, it looks really the same as assets, right? We'll basically show the same kind of landing page experience. We'll have the payroll provider that's mapped to the employer. So for Costco, right, we know it's SAP. We'll basically show just the login password field or whatever, the fields that are necessary for this provider. And then they can just log in as if they're logging into their payroll provider. And once we get a success, right, they see this the same option to add another source. So if they said, "Oh, I also have this other employer, right, that is maybe current that I work at part time," they could connect that there, or they can just close it out and press finish and share. So that is the same kind of flow here, right, for co-borrower as well. You can do Home Depot. And maybe for this one, we'll add another income source. So let's say I was like, oh, I also work at maybe like Dunkin' Donuts or something part time. And maybe, right, that's connected through ADP. So now, right, I connected all of my employers and I'm going to finish this. And that's it. I guess also what I can show real quick is just an example of the email that would get sent back to you. I know I've been referring to it, but when right these orders are being completed, since you're not necessarily going to be in the Truv app, right? You're not going to know exactly when this is happening. So you'll get an email that looks like this. So this is from our assets connection, and it shows right the person, the loan number, their email, the bank that was connected. If there was multiple, right, they'd all be listed. Kind of when it was done, the source, everything you need to know, right, and also make this very easily searchable in your inbox. So if you just had the loan ID, you could just search it and it would come up. And these also can be mapped into your Encompass instance if you work off like a pipeline view, right? We support kind of pulling these statuses into there so you can see real time, right? What's the status of each connection and as it's being updated. So I'll bring that back down. Um, and yeah, now we have a couple done connections. Let me just take a pause. Let's see if there's any kind of questions on creating the order or retrieving the order at this stage.
It looks like we
Any?
actually have a question in the chat box about verifying income through bank deposits, if you could show that experience.
Mhm. Yeah, so in the verification of assets connection, right, we will generate an assets report. I can show what it looks like. That basically looks like this. So it will give you a summary of the connected accounts, right, through Chase. It'll show you balances. You can flag any large deposits. And you can see kind of the full list of transactions here. We'll also have tags on here. This, in this report, I don't have any, but you'll have like direct deposit or, B2B lending or various things like that. We also generate a report ID here. So this report ID is used for GSE submission. If I go now into the GSE lender fields down here, this will be pre-filled as soon as the order is completed. So down here, this is that same VOA report ID. And now if I run AUS, right, basically we'll send all this data to Fannie and Freddie, and you have the option to get, income, employment, or assets rep and warranty relief through the initial report. So that would all come back in those findings. And that's actually right with the verification of the deposit-based verification of employment product is for as well. Um, so if I was to get income and employment verified through assets, and then as the loan now approaches closing, right, the employment verification is going to expire. So this is basically where we get into refresh flows. So I could refresh, right, this data that was connected through Chase. And in the refresh, I can choose the product type. So if I want the full right VOA report with everything again, it's going to be like, balances, transactions, deposits, everything. I can pick this option. Or if I just want to try to re-verify employment through that assets connection, I can pick this deposit-based VOE option. So what this is actually going to create is a shortened version of that report, all of the kind of balances removed, the large deposits removed, and in that transaction table, we're just going to get a list of the direct deposit transactions without amounts. So basically, to validate that the last direct deposit that should have been received has been received, confirming that they're still employed there. And again, Fannie and Freddie can basically consume all that data. Um, let's see. Okay, all right, I see now in Q&A. Do you have to select more than 60 days worth of assets? Nothing really to be aware of here, right? So you can change the number of days that you want to receive. I think we support up to 2 years, right? So like 731 days is the max here. And then same for like the refresh connection. So I refreshed this for 60 days, but if I wanted, I could, for example, here, right, refresh this for 730. And that will basically give me all of the data that I'm requesting. I think also part of the benefit, right, of requesting the additional data is we also have some functionality in here to allow you to generate a new report. So say, you've got this connection refreshed, you got all these accounts, or even in the initial order, right? You got all these accounts, you got all this data, but it's actually more than you need, right? Maybe you only need to highlight or identify like, some specific deposits or some accounts. We have the option to, in assets, right, generate a new report and specify specifically which accounts you want to include and the time frame. And you can also, pick a custom period in here. So, for example, if you wanted to say, I got like 2 years of history, but I want to just verify that like some earnest money deposits hit, you can go in and pick a custom period for this. So I can say, just show me a summary of the transactions that were for, let's say, like January, right? And maybe only in the checking account. So I can go ahead and generate a new report for this connection, and it'll give me just that data I want. Status updates, who gets emailed with results, the only one placing the order unless. Yeah, Lauren, this can be pre-programmed, definitely. So on our end, right, we have a couple options that we can easily just switch on. So always it'll be the person who created the order, right? So if you saw every time I go to create, my email is pre-filled in here. We also have the loan officer and the processor that can be set as defaults. So anytime that one is assigned on the file, they would also be pre-filled in this dropdown. Um, and then we also support kind of like a customizable freeform field. So we can actually allow you to map like any email in Encompass into this custom field, and it'll be added here every single time. So you can really kind of pick anything that way. And then the last option we also have is a group inbox. So in your Truv dashboard, you can go in and set um, an alerts email. Let me show you here. So I can go into this. This is now the Truv dashboard view. Right, if you're one of our clients or lenders, you'll have an instance of this. here you can add an email into this, sorry, company, into this email address for status updates and notifications. You can add an email here, and basically we'll always also copy this person. So if all your processors, right, are the ones who are going to be ordering, they'll work out of a group inbox. If you're worried that, maybe sometimes someone might go out, you can just set something in here for their group inbox, and then the group inbox will receive the notification, the processor will receive it, right? And that way there's always like 2 points of contact. Um, and yeah, I think for instructions, we definitely have some documents and guides that we can share offline. Cool. Any other questions on this kind of like basic order creation flow? If not, I can go into, I think, like the next feature we're going to show. So um, actually, we can like close out the refresh, right? So
I think a
um,
Where?
question just came in.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's see. Do we need to update the employer contact?
Do we need to update the employer
Yeah,
contact info to match the Truv report results to run AUS accurately?
yeah. So this is a good question. So we have like a feature kind of added for this that'll show in a second. Um, yeah, basically, right. One of the biggest reasons that we see like employment rep and warranty relief fall off is due to mismatch naming of the employer that's in the loan file and then the employer that's included in the verification data. It can be like super simple, like ink versus not having ink on the end, and that will break it. So we have a feature to allow you to like patch the data from the verification into the loan, to basically make them match one to one and kind of solve that problem. I'll show that in a second, but to answer the question just for now. So just to close out the refreshes, right? You would create the refresh as you get towards closing. If you need new data to revalidate employment, on the income side as well, uh, right? You can order a refresh. So the first time, right, you create the order, you get all this income and employment data. You can take a look at the report. So this is going to include, right, employment status for all of the employers they connected. You have current as of date, right? You have pay, income summary, income, all of this good information. Um, as you get towards closing, right, typically you'll have to re-verify at least the employment status prior to closing and get the 10-day PCV. So this is where, again, you can use the refresh data flow. So say, right, John Doe, they connected these employers, that's great. But I need to now re-verify that they're still employed at Home Depot. So I can do refresh data. And now I can, again, pick kind of which level of data or product type I want. So VOI was the original order. This will include all the income information, pay stubs, W-2s. Prior to closing, right, I probably don't want to refresh all that. So I can either pick VOE, which will basically just return that report and only the employment status, or I can do VOE and most recent pay stub. So that'll be the report with the employment status and the last pay stub if needed. And I can pick, right, which employer to include. So let's go with Home Depot and VOE. And when you refresh the data, right, what we're trying to do is we're trying to go use those existing credentials that were provided and just re-log in to their provider for Home Depot and then pull the data. If we're successful, right, you'll basically just get a refresh done status in, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes. You'll get another email that says we successfully refreshed the data, and it'll all kind of follow the flow you saw before. If for some reason we're not able to reuse those existing credentials, maybe they changed them, or maybe there's like MFA and they need to enter some one-time passcode. So in those cases, we will have to re-authenticate, right, and ask them to re-enter their credentials. So if it happens to be that way, we'll also send you an email, or whoever is in that status update column, telling them we had to, re-authenticate, and we sent an email to the borrower, and we'll include kind of which employers are in that request. So once this is done, right, and this refresh is completed, now you'll again get a new report. It'll have just this employment information. So you can see here, right, we have employment. We don't have all of that income data. And right, that's kind of that's all that they were expecting. Um, if you, I think in some cases, right, happen to have a loan that moves really quickly, say, they connected um, this income order, and then, it's ready to close maybe in like 10 days or something really fast. And then closing, right, or underwriting still wants to see a VOE version of the report to validate that they're still employed there. But the existing data is actually like still eligible for that. You can also generate just a VOE version of this data through this generate new report button on the income order. So if you pick this, right, what we'll basically do is we will use already that existing connected data, and we'll just pull a subset of it that's for employment, and you don't have to, ever re-authenticate or reconnect. It'll automatically just work. So here I get, right, the employment version of this report. And if you look at them side by side, right, it's the same kind of report date and current as of info. It just has the income part stripped out. Okay, so I think that's the like ordering flow. I think for next, maybe let's go to the data patching question. So um, the question before was, right, do we have to update the loan data to match what's in the verification data? So yeah, typically this is good practice, right? Otherwise it can hurt rip and warranty relief. So what we've added for this is this update loan data feature. So by default, when you connect with Truv, we're not going to overwrite any data in the loan file. All of this, that you saw in the verification report, right? These all map to fields in Encompass, but we don't push them there automatically because that's like, very disruptive. So with this update loan data feature, you'll basically have the option to look at all the employers that were returned in the verification data. And if there's any that match an employer in the loan application, we'll kind of map those to one another. So as you remember, right, I put Home Depot in the loan file initially. They connected Home Depot, and then they also connected these other like textiles and paper company employers. So Home Depot, right, we match this 1003 ERLA entry to the Truv report data for Home Depot. And at this point, right, the LO or the processor, they can go through and select which fields they want to overwrite in the 1003, if any. So if like employer name differed, right, this would be a good place to pick this and pass that data into the file so that it matches and ensures, employment relief. We do like a bit of fuzzy matching on our side, right? So it's like intelligent matching. It's not just going to look for a exact match. Otherwise, that would defeat the purpose. So if we see like Home Depot Inc., but the loan says Home Depot, like Home Depot Corporation, right? We'll know those are the same, and we'll match those up. So you can ensure that, if you don't have an exact match, you can still overwrite the previous one. So you can pick all the employer fields. We have employment info. So, right, if it's a current or non-current, there's a start and end date. And then we also have all the gross monthly income data. So this is all also from the Truv report. So, at this point at the start, I only had an employer name, but I really have the option to pass all of the data we got back from Truv in. And then if they connected anything else, right, that I didn't previously capture, I can easily just add this as well in here, and it'll get passed straight through. So I'm going to select everything and overwrite this data, and it will go through in 1 second. So that's for income. And then you have to exit the loan, right? This is like a loan lock limitation. So I'm just actually going to hop out of here and give it 1 second, and then it should go through. So one second. You went back too fast. So it typically takes like, yeah, a minute or so.
And Compass can load so slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not the fastest. Maybe I'll open a new file. I see another question though from Brett. Do all Encompass users have this database Truv program? How do we access it from Encompass? So do you mean, Brett, just like the Truv app that we just showed, or? Yeah. So as soon as you plug in your keys, basically everyone will have access to it. Actually, while we wait, I can just show like the setup process. It's very, very straightforward. If you were to set this up, right, you basically just go into service management, and then you will right, add service if you don't have it already. Go into verifications, retrieve products. Here there'll be like, a ton of stuff. You just look for Truv, which is down here. Click manual, and then you can just save this, right? I'm not going to save it because we already have one. Once you save it, the tile will show up here. And then all you have to do is go into credentials. You add a company credential, and then the client ID and secret, you're just going to pull directly from your Truv dashboard. So remember this dashboard view that I showed here. So you go into your development tab, and then you're just going to get your client ID, right? Which is going to be copyable right here. That goes in here, and then your production key, you copy from here and put it in here, and that's it. So once you do that, you basically have enabled Truv and Encompass, and everyone can use it. They don't have to create an account, right? People don't have to belong to this. As long as they have access to your Encompass instance, right? They can use this service. Okay. So that gave it enough time to update. So now we see all of that Home Depot data, right, that I pushed back is now showing up in the 1003. Actually, I picked all of it, so all of it's coming back. So that's the feature on the income side. And then for assets, we also have this, and it works exactly the same way. So if you have an assets connection, right, like Chase Bank, um, you can pick which fields you want to push back into the loan file. So right now, when you first open it, it's just checking to see if all those fields match or not. If all the fields match, then we disable this button, right? Because otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? It's kind of useless. But if there's a mismatch, then we'll show the button is available to click. And when you open it, you'll see we have each account that was detected. So from Chase, right, the time they logged in, we got 3 accounts. We got this checking, we got the savings, and we got investment. And then you'll see the values in the 1003 and then the values in the report. So we can pass back the account type, the institution, account number, cash or market value, and owner. One bit of nuance with assets is due to an ICE limitation, right? If someone manually entered in Chase or it was entered by like another provider, we can't overwrite those entries. We can only overwrite our own entries. So the first time you patch this data back, it's going to create a new set of entries. But if you ever like refresh this or update it again, we can overwrite our own entries. It's kind of like a silly limitation, and they actually don't even know why it's like that, but said that's how it is. So hopefully they'll change it one day. So now, right, that request is going and all that assets data is going to be patched back once I exit. Um, any questions on writing data back? This one is also, right, particularly beneficial. I think if typically the way these features will be used is say you go, right, you maybe get a loan that you just take in off the phone or, an LO kind of enters the data. You don't really have too much information about this borrower. Maybe generally know they have a Chase account or maybe they currently work at Home Depot, but not much more than that. You can basically create this Truv order, right? Put in what you do know. So I know they have Home Depot employer. I know they have Chase Bank financial institution. You can send those orders out. You can direct them to connect that and like any other employers they've had for the last 2 years or any other bank accounts or retirement accounts or anything they might have. You can even send them the link right through that copy button and then just hop on the phone with them or send them an email, immediately. That's typically best practice. And then the LO can kind of walk them through the experience, say, all right, connect these. Do you have any other, employers? Do you, et cetera, kind of go through the full thing and get it all done right in that one, 15, 20-minute call. And then, right, the benefit is you get back all this data. So you get back the verification for income, assets, employment, all the pay stubs, all the W-2s. You can run AUS, right? You can get rep and warranty relief. Um, if you don't have any of that data in the file, you can use this patch or this update loan data feature to just push it all in. So now this becomes, right, the source of truth. It's what was actually verified. And you can kind of get up and running a lot faster and moving into conditional approval. One additional feature I'll show in here is requesting additional pay stubs. So if they're employed, right, and maybe they have like some bonus income or they have variable income or they had a big pay raise in the last year, right? And a lot of those cases, you'll need the pay stub to validate, right, that increase to be able to use it and give that to underwriting. So by default, Truv will return the 6 most recent pay stubs and then year-to-date pay stubs, or sorry, end-of-year pay stubs for the last 1, 2, or 3 years, whatever's available. This can be configured as well in your Truv template that's used. You can make it less than that, so you can only return like the last 2 or the last 1 recent pay stub. But that's kind of like the max. Um, so what we've added is a way for you to download additional pay stubs. So typically when we connect, we get a lot more than just like the last 6 from the provider, right? We might get last like 2 years or something if available. So what this button will do is if we know there's additional pay stubs that we've retrieved that were not in the first batch we just upload, you can open this and it'll show you right all the employers that were connected. You can then open whichever one you want to get more pay stubs for, and you can see all of the pay stubs that we actually retrieved. So in this case, there's no additional ones, but if there was some more that were not uploaded, like in this company, for example, um, you can basically go in, right, and you can see um, some basic info like the pay date, the period, net pay, gross pay. You can expand it to see all of the itemizations and breakdowns. You can actually click the file link to see the pay stub itself, right? To see if this is the one where you're looking for that bonus or something. And then from here, right, you could either just download this file or you can actually just push these into the E folder. So if I was, a processor and I was like, this is the one we need for that bonus, I can just download the pay stub and it'll push it into the E folder so any team can use it. Okay, so do we have some more questions? So I'm seeing Lauren's question now. We have verified assets, they're true. Not able to connect with employer. Um, Yes. Yes, that's correct. So, um, yeah, if with the assets, right, report ID that's submitted, if you're able to get employment relief, right, from them using that report, then afterwards, right, if you verified employment also through some other pathway, maybe you called, maybe you know got another report from some other provider, you could still, right, use that assets data to re-verify employment. So you could do as I showed, right, this deposit-based verification of employment only. If you refresh with that and you got the employment relief the first time with assets, this will refresh that employment relief. Just to show you what the report here looks like. So it's basically stripping out all of the balances, all the transaction values, all the deposit values, and we're just showing a filtered list here of direct deposits. So essentially, right, validating that the last pay stub or last pay period that they're supposed to receive, right, is indeed in this transaction list. And this data, right, also gets sent to Fannie and Freddie when you run AUS with this report ID, and they basically will see the same thing and be able to issue that relief. Cool. Any other questions anyone has? Just on these, there's a couple other things that I can show you. Just want to make sure there's no other questions or comments before we move on.
Nothing's coming in yet, but the questions are good, so keep them up. You have them.
Hmm. Okay. Um, what I can also show is so this like whole Encompass right suite. It's like a couple different platforms that they have. So we also have an integration with TPO Connect. So if you have any like broker, wholesale, correspondent um, channels, right? We have Truv also integrated there. And basically, right, whoever the LO or processor is on that channel, they can order it in TPO Connect. And then we can go through this like same verification flow. And then when this loan is actually submitted to the LOS, right, all of this same detail and information is going to be passed back. So we can show this TPO Connect flow as well. Let me just log in here. 1 second. So say I'm in like my TPO portal here. I go into to add a new loan. I can pick right whatever channel. Say we're doing wholesale. Going to assign my TPO loan officer, and then I'm going to assign my TPO loan processor, and then we'll do a like manual right loan creation. So we can do there TPO borrower, just enter some basic things. That's all we need for this stage. Okay. Now I'm going to enter in some couple more pieces, right? Those same pieces of information we need to create the Truv order and Encompass LOS. We also need in TPO Connect. So we have name. Let's see. Need to add employer history, right? So I can again add let's go with like see they work at Boeing. Can add another, right? We can say they work in Chipotle, co-borrower, let's say like And then same same options as in LOS with assets. You can add some banks here. I think I didn't add a co-borrower name. And then let's add this email. Okay, so we'll save this. And then once we have this basic information, right, we can also go into service orders. So it looks and feels very similar to LOS. We can go ahead, order service, right? Verifications is where I have the product added. And then you'll see the same ordering interface here, right? So I have um, those employers, current label, success rate. I can pick my template. I can change my product type. I'll have the bank accounts show up if I pick those. Um, kind of, exact same look and feel. And then when I create those orders, right, we'll get those orders sent over to the borrower and co-borrower. They were both sent successfully, right? That's great. I'll do one of these. Okay. And we'll finish and share. Um, where's my, here we go. Okay, so now, right, TPO connect, we have this processing and same kind of actions are available here, right? Updating loan data, generating new report, getting more pay stubs. The report itself is actually processing. So this should be ready shortly. Yep. So we have the report here. And again, right, same with this like status updates column. So anyone can be added in here or any defaults can be set. Once this order is completed, the files will be pushed into the TPO Connect version of the E folder. So we have the actual VOI report. If you're getting order level invoices, right? If you want to actually pass this along to the borrower, those will be available in here. You have W-2s, pay stubs, right? Also link level report, all of that information. And then I think probably the last step here, right? So say the TPO contact has gone and done this initial verification, and then they're ready to actually submit this loan to the lender. So they can submit this. Um, I forgot which was my. Um, yep. So they can submit this loan. So I'm going to confirm. And then now, right, the lender that they submit this to, once they go and receive this loan, they will, let me just grab the loan ID. So in their pipeline, they'll be able to find the loan and all of this verification data. I think I need to, yeah. So this is the loan I just submitted. Oh, I guess in editing mode, so let me exit this. Yep, so I submitted it, and now, right, all of the documents are passed into the E folder here. So all those same things we just saw. And then in the services, right, that order is also going to show up in the same way. So you can really kind of continuously pick up on any workflow that was started, right? Say even one of these orders was pending, right? You don't need it anymore after the loan's submitted. You can cancel it from here. Um, you can, right, refresh the data. Say you're approaching closing now. I need to refresh, right, verification of employment on these. I can go ahead and do that. Or maybe it moved really fast and I just want the employment version of the report. I can go ahead and use this to pull that out. Or say, they did they submitted the loan, but I have like no data in this file essentially, but I have these two verified employers. I can just patch all this data into the loan and that'll give me like a starting point for underwriting. Or if I need an additional pay stub, right? If maybe there's like a bonus from one of these that I need to validate, I can also go in through here and search for one of those. So kind of right, very very seamless between TPO Connect and LOS. Any questions on this? I know we're also just about at time, so I think we'll kind of stop the demo here.
Bear, that was awesome. You're so thorough. There's no more questions left in the chat that I see. Give anyone like 30 more seconds to ask. If not, then Melissa, you can explain any next steps from here, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you all for joining us. As I said, this was our very first one. I think it went pretty well, though. Thank you, Bear. Thank you, Katrin. In case there are any remaining questions, I will be following up later today with the full recording, and Bear and Katrin's contact info in case you would like to continue the conversation. But we're going to start doing these monthly, so we hope you guys join us again. Every month will be a little bit different, but if you ever want something specific, just let us know and we'll make sure to talk about it. But thank you all for joining us. We're just at time, so that'll do it for us.
Mhm. Thank you so much,
Perfect. Thank
everyone.
you. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.